And we are back. We are glad to be with you here again today. Comenius Institute website. Glad to participate in learning a little bit more about folks who have been through some of my classes and students from the past. I started teaching in Bismarck, North Dakota, went to Adrian, Michigan, taught in Chicago, now in Indianapolis, and have been really enjoying my time interacting and interviewing with some of my students. And today, Dominic Hamden, thank you so much for joining us. We're grateful for your presence.
Hello from Milan, Michigan. I got to tell you, I'm a little envious this morning. I keep an eye on the governors from the 3 surrounding states to get a bit of an idea of what's going to be happening in ours going forward. And I'm hearing that you're going to be able to get your haircut come May 11th. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for everybody from Indiana. We're a couple of weeks behind you, so I don't know. Maybe the end of May, I'll be able to go back to my normal hair length.
Well, I'll just tell you this: that when you shove your hair back like this, you just keep hiding stuff. That's the way that goes. And I have actually been talking with my wife, about bringing back the ponytail, but she seems to be dead set against that.
My dad is getting close. I will tell you that I've started to part my hair down the middle again, like I did when I was last time you saw me when I was 18 years old. It's an unusual day, but anyway.
Well, it's great. It's great to be on the show here with you. And here's Jeff Jameson from back in the good old stomping grounds there at Lenawee Christian. Thanks so much, Jeff, for entering the broadcast here just to say hello. Appreciate that, and appreciate Lenawee Christian School for all of the good things that have happened there over the years, and not the least of which is the person that's here with us today, which is Dominic Hamden. Again, thank you for spending half an hour with us. I wanted to start by just talking about some of the bio. Give us a little bit of an update here. It's been, for you and I, 20 plus years. Tell people about yourself and your family.
I graduated a couple years behind Jeff, class of 97 from Lenawee Christian. Spent a few years at my mother. Most people know this. My mother was actually diagnosed with breast cancer about 2 months after my graduation date. And I spent a couple of years at Adrian College before transferring to the University of Michigan and getting my acceptance letter there. Graduated in class of 2001. And from there, went on to Cooley Law, which is now Western Michigan University. Served 4 semesters on law review. That was fun. It was exciting. It was difficult, but graduated in 2001. Spent a year working, representing hospitals and doctors out in Detroit. And then I went to work for what would have been, my legal mentor in Ann Arbor, Stephen Reed, for about 2.5 years before opening up my own practice in Milan. And I've been doing that now for, Alex is 12, so I've been doing that now for about just over 12 years. And fell in love with it. And my wife and I moved to the city when Ethan was about 6 months, so that would have been about 15 years ago now. And fell in love with Milan almost instantaneously, and never really wanted to go anywhere else. And then I got approached by Kim Muckler, who was the mayor at the time, after I had my office open for about a year, and asked me to run for city council. Ran for city council, got elected the first time by, I think, 23 votes was the difference between me and the next electorate. Served 4 years and then ran again. Much bigger difference, about 300 or 400 vote difference between me and the next electorate after that, the next candidate. And then 2.5 years ago, I had a conversation with my wife, and I go, I've been doing this now for about 8 years, and there's other things I'd like to do. I have there's things I enjoy, certain passions. I like to travel. I like whitewater rafting. There's some things I'd like to do. And I was almost ready to be done. And then I got approached by an individual here in the city, a local pastor here in the city, who said, at that point in time, Mike Armitage was mayor. and asked me if I would be interested in running for mayor. And I go, I've done this now for 8 years. I've done this now almost for a decade. And, he goes, well, after about 45 minutes, we agreed that we would leave it up in the air and we'd think about it a little bit. And about a week later, I got a phone call from the mayor who wasn't running for re-election, Mike Armitage. And Mike just goes, well, I hear you're thinking about it. And I'm like, how did this get around? Like, I wasn't planning on doing anything at all. And Mike caught me on a Saturday morning sitting at City Hall, sitting in my office downtown, talked to me for about an hour and a half. And then I went home and had a conversation with Laura, and I go, we got to make a decision on this one way or another. So we agreed we'd let it fester for a couple of weeks. And then I eventually called her up when she was at work, and I go, I got to make this decision now. And she goes, if you don't do it, I know you well enough to know that, 3-4 weeks down the line, you're going to be regretting it. So she goes, so just do it. And so we did it. And then first election was contested. It was actually hotly contested, and won that pretty significantly. And then this last November, I ran unopposed. And so I've been serving now mayor for the last 3.5 years, council for 8, and mayor for 3.5. And these are. Thank you. I mean, the 8 years on city council were interesting because the city had budgetary issues. I mean, we were working ourselves through the Great Recession, and I had the bad times on city council to where we were, selling automobiles in order to purchase new automobiles. It was the only way we could make ends meet. And then I was mayor. We had turned the corner, and all of a sudden, everything was getting done. Roads are getting replaced. Massive amounts of work are getting done here in the city. We're still getting some things done. And I've gotten that too. So I've gotten kind of what I consider the worst of times and the best of times. And now I have a virus, lurking around the entire country, and we're trying to work through that now too. But it's been an interesting 20 years. I don't know.
Well, your expertise and your service certainly speaks for itself. It's always a neat thing for somebody like myself to see a civil servant with such a servant's heart. And, I see that consistently as I just kind of scan social media from time to time, and wanted to make sure to give you an opportunity just to talk about these things. And maybe just for the sake of everybody out there that might be listening now and or listening later in an archive session, why don't you address, maybe just pick the toughest thing that you've had to deal with? And I don't mean as a mayor, I mean really as a politician, as somebody who is in the public eye, in the public sphere. What is the thing that is most difficult for you in that respect?
I would probably say, at least on my end, understanding that I have, I'm also a litigator. I mean, as an attorney, my primary area of practice is commercial litigation. My biggest difficulty is not reacting to it, recognizing the fact that sometimes I just have to bite my lip and realize, I believe the course of action which I'm taking is the correct one. I understand that there's going to be flack for it. I understand that there's going to be criticism for it. But the course of action in which I'm taking, I believe, is the right one. And this is the route we're going to go. I'm fortunate that I'm surrounded by some wonderful department heads. My city administrator, Karen Samborski, we've got a wonderful relationship. And, I've always told her, and I've told all the department heads, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to disagree with me. It really is. I welcome that feedback. It doesn't bother me if we're sitting in a room, all 9 of us, and we're having a conversation about a project, and you disagree with the course of action, which, I want to go down, or which Karen wants to go down. That's okay. But when the course of action is taken, this is the road I want to go down, and this is what I believe is the right thing to do. I pay attention to social media with regard to my residents. I read it, but regularly where you see me begin to interact with it. And it's because typically what you're just doing is stirring the pot a little bit. And you're never going to find a happy end. But you're faced with an issue. You vet it, with the people that you trust around you. You discuss it, and then you pick a course of action and you move forward. And I'm fortunate to have just absolutely wonderful department heads that listen and aren't afraid. And that was the big thing when I first came on 2.5 years ago. I didn't want them to be afraid about expressing their opinion to me. They all have areas of expertise, whether it be the treasurer or the police chief or the fire chief or the DPW director. They've all gone to school. They all have years of experience doing their job. And it's a bit arrogant and pompous of me to sit there and tell them I disagree with what you're saying, and this is the road I want to go down. The best way I tell people is I can't play the flute, I can't play the trumpet, I can't play the piano, the drums, I can't play an instrument. My job is essentially to conduct the orchestra, and try to make sure everybody's playing at the right song, and then we move forward. But not reacting to the public criticism, not reacting to somebody who's displeased with something that the city's doing or the road it's going down. But
it would seem that the age-old proverb that is best stated in this particular case is that it's always better to speak negative comments than it is to write them. And so, on social media, your point about stirring the pot, I mean, my word, you say the wrong thing on social media, it's like this verbal explosion.
Yeah. Or it just gets interpreted the wrong way. And that's, email can be the same way. When I'm communicating with another lawyer, they may be on the other side and they're reading what I'm saying one way. And I'm like, that's not how that was intended.
Right.
Call me. And then you talk on the phone. But
at least voice to voice, if not face to face, is imperative in all of our conversations.
Yeah, and I can see your eyes, I can see your head movement, I can see, are you smiling, are you frowning, what's going on? But the biggest challenge, the litigator in me sometimes, is just on the elected side of it, is just turning that off and realizing that I'm not going to win every discussion, and some discussions just can't be won. You just have to move on down the line.
Well, let me turn our attention to something that is important to both of us, which is our faith. And I wanted to ask how your faith informs in any way how you do your job, whether that be as a mayor or as a litigator or as a husband or as a dad, whatever. You take that wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So, and then this is probably speaking volumes right now, given our current state of our country and our counties and our states. During the last 20 years, I've certainly had bad things that have happened to me. Whether it be my mother getting ill, 2 months after graduating high school. My employment with my mentor obviously ended. And it ended 2 weeks before my youngest son was born, which is, that was a difficult conversation to have with my wife. But there were bad times, and I certainly could go back over the last 22 years and find other events in my life. My father ended up developing prostate cancer, like 6 months or a year after I graduated law school. And so there's we look back on our lives, and I'm certainly not immune to it. And there are times when we have what we would consider bad days. But looking back, what I've tend to learn and come to appreciate is that may not necessarily be a bad day. What that may be is you're given an opportunity to go down a different road, the road which you were intending to go down. And I probably never would have left my mentor's office ever. I probably would still be there because we had that close of a bond, and I enjoyed working for him that much. And had the decision not been made for me, when it did, I probably never would have opened up my own office. I never would have. Take care, buddy. Yep, go for a bike ride. My son's going for a bike ride. I never would have been elected to council. Never would have been elected mayor. And I look back on my 17 years of marriage now, and I certainly would not have done the things with my wife that we've done. We enjoy traveling to the Caribbean. We enjoy traveling. It's the one vice we have. We don't live in a huge home. We don't spend a lot of money on material things, but we love to vacation. And I wouldn't have done those things.
Hmm.
And so there were bad times in my life, but in retrospect, I look back on those and I'm realizing there was a reason behind that. There was a reason why, 2 weeks prior to him being born, that I was supposed to go down a different road. And I think part of that is just becoming a mature adult too. But part of that too is the further I think that we get in life, the more emboldened our faith becomes that there's a reason why things are happening, or multiple reasons. And even looking at this virus as we sit here now, this COVID-19, we may never know what all the purposes of this are. But as we get closer to Memorial Day, one of the things I keep thinking about is, I did not serve, but I keep thinking about our veterans, and I keep thinking about the fact that nobody wants to live like this in perpetuity. Nobody wants to live in their home in perpetuity. Nobody wants to not be able to visit with their family in perpetuity, or be able to go on vacation with their spouses in perpetuity. We don't want to live this way. And I, for one, and I would imagine most people, when you would ask them, have a greater respect for the liberties and for the freedoms that we do have. Have them restrained the way they are now, we have a greater respect for those freedoms and for those liberties. And when I look at veterans now, when I think about those that are in our community, I'm so much more proud of them than what I was before this pandemic occurred. I'm so much more honored to be their mayor. I'm so much more, respect them so much more than what I did, 3 months ago. And not having served, I can tell you too, that on my end, there's almost a slight more shame on my end, not having served in the military, or not having served, that cause. And so over the course of our lives, bad things happen, whether it be a pandemic or the loss of a job or the loss of a loved one. But one of the things I've learned over 20 years is that, usually that's because there's a road you're going down that maybe you're not supposed to go down.
Mm.
And I certainly wouldn't be here talking to you, had I not, ended my employment with my mentor 12 years ago.
Mm.
So.
Yes. Well, that's the whole road issue is a big deal in Scripture. Scripture is pretty clear about roads and ways and paths that we follow, and from a decidedly Christian point of view, that has a certain kind of resonance with us. I'm especially interested in your family. I noticed that you play an awful lot of hockey. One of the pictures that I put up,
they do.
they play hockey. Yeah. Okay, I saw you all out there in skates at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in the kinds of interactions that you have with your boys, and why that matters to you. And perhaps even what does that say to the community in which you live?
So Ethan is just turned 15. Actually, he turned 15, under quarantine, which was interesting. He loves seafood, so I ended up I had a buddy of mine who emailed me and goes, "Great seafood place about 45 minutes from now, all raw. Just go pick it up." So that's how we did his birthday. But and then Alex is 12. He'll be 13 in October. Yeah, they both started skating when they were about 4, maybe 3.5. And this kind of comes from the last question you asked me, which was, I never would have been able to place them in travel ice hockey had I not ended my employment with my mentor. It never would have happened. And that that was a crushing moment for me when I lost my job. But I never would have done the things with them that I've been able to do. And if I have I've got plenty of faults, but I work a lot, 10, 12-hour days. But the flip of that is I get to enjoy them in so many more ways that I know I would never have been able to had I been working. I've taken them to hockey tournaments in the UP. That's the Upper Peninsula. If anybody's watching who's not in Michigan and never been here, taken them. We've been to South Bend, which was absolutely gorgeous. And from a Michigan grad to be able to say that Notre Dame campus is absolutely gorgeous, it is. It is a phenomenal campus. My older boy scored a rink at Notre Dame, or scored a goal at Notre Dame Ice Arena. You know, they've played at the University of Michigan Ice Arena. But I've been able to spend a lot of time with them doing things, just taking my work with me that I would not have been able to otherwise do. You know, my boys, I don't know what else to say other than, you know, they're the world to me. And my older boy was actually hit by a car about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. But that's another one of those moments in your life where you're having a gut check. I mean, I rode with him in the back seat of the EMT vehicle, you know, up to Mott's Children's Hospital, and he turned out okay. But you know, when he was injured, the first, you know, thought you have is he ever going to walk again? And then once you realize he's going to be okay, the next thought in the back of your mind is he ever going to skate again? And I can remember where I was when I finally saw his knee straighten out. And I can tell you exactly where I was, you know, the time of day it was and where it was at. And then I just watched, and his knee literally just straightened right out, and he began walking normal. But I spend every moment I can with them, and you know, every moment I try to tell them is a teaching moment. We're obviously at home. This is their study hours. They actually just got done with it. My younger son was helping me cook dinner about, you know, an hour and a half ago. We were working on a roast. And so, the big thing that I try to stress on both of them is that, you know, life is a sampler platter. And what I mean by that is you have to try a lot of different things, because you're never really going to know what it is that you're going to enjoy and what you're going to be good at. You know, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a food or it's, you know, an extracurricular activity or a class at school. It doesn't matter what it is. I try as often as I can to get their hands in as much as I possibly can. And my older boy, before this pandemic broke out, had joined the skeet team at school. And, you know, one of his buddies did it, and he told me he wanted to do it. If you want to do it, you want to do it, that's okay. Try it. And if you don't like it, you don't got to do it again. I expect you to finish. I expect you to finish what you start. But if you tell me you don't like it, that's okay. But if you love it, then we'll just keep doing it. But they both fell in love with ice hockey when they were about 3.5, maybe 4 years old. And it was hard at the beginning getting them on the ice. I love ice hockey. I played it up until I was about 22, when I developed a bone tumor in my own leg. And then it was hard at the beginning for the first couple of years to get them to do it. And then, you know, you ask them now what the hardest part about this is they haven't been on ice in about 2.5 months, and they're hating it.
That's just a killer. Yeah. When you're so used to it.
Yeah.
When you think about this, and we'll just make this the last question, when you mentioned that your boys are junior, senior high school, as you think back on your own days in high school, do you tell them about any lessons that you learned or any kind of instruction that you give them because of your days in high school?
Yeah. A couple of things. The world's changed so much in 20 years. First of all, the things that we do now. So I'll answer the opposite question, and then I'll go back to that one. So much has changed. The decisions which we make now, you know, are laminated all over the internet. And so, you know, I tell them that you have to make wise decisions. And you have to be careful of the limitations that are here now that I didn't have 20 years ago. And the second thing I tell them is, and I use this in hockey all the time, but I use it in the course of life, which is, I don't particularly care if you win or you lose. What I care about is how you play the game. And they've won games before, and I'm speaking figuratively, but they've won games before that they've played very poorly. And they've lost games before where they have played absolutely phenomenally. And when that happens, I just, I shrug my shoulders and I go, it didn't work out today. It's okay. I'm so happy with how you performed today. I'm so pleased with your performance. I don't think I've ever seen you skate better. You lost. And in any given day, you're going to win or you lose, but it's how you win or lose that matters. Mm. And the second thing I tell them all the time is when you're going through your life, no matter what it may be, you want to do it in an honorable way and in a kind way. And when you look back, and I'm a human, and I've certainly had things that I've done that I've probably been less honorable, some people would think. But when you look back on your life, or you look back on events in your life, you want to be able to say that you did it in an honorable way and that you did it the right way. And there is a right and there is a wrong. And there is a thin line in the middle that may come down to, a matter of where's your conviction, to the right or to the left. But there is a right and there is a wrong. And my department heads, if I frustrate them in any sense of the way, it's because sometimes I can be delayed in making decisions. And they'll call me up and be like, have you made a decision? I go, nah, I'm still thinking about it. Ask me in a couple of days. It's still festering. But I tell them all the time, there's a right and there's a wrong, and you've got to be able to make the decision and understand that you're not always going to make the right decision, and that's okay.
They're good. Those are good, wise words.
Yeah, and be honorable. And my youngest son, I didn't pick either one of their first names. I had great names picked up, great Roman names from back when I had Roman history in my undergrad. My wife, told me absolutely not. I could not use any of those. But I did get to pick out his middle name. His middle name, Timothy. And Timothy, the meaning of it is one who honors God, and that was the point of that, which is something to stick with him. Be honorable when it comes about how you're going about your day.
That's wonderful. That's really great advice, and certainly for all who have watched and who will watch, they've learned something not only about their mayor, but about a man who walks down the street with them, just like everybody else. Just wanted to show you some other comments here. Sarah Johnson, great advice. Good to see you both. Yeah, and here's one from a friend, not in our country actually. But we're grateful for her good comments as well, and thankful for all of you who joined with us today. And thanks, Dominic, for again spending a few minutes. And Godspeed on your travels, and especially on your work, not only as a lawyer but as a mayor, but more importantly as a man who honors God and honors his family. So thank you.
Thank you, and to yourself and to everybody that's watching. Be safe. Stay home, be kind, and we're gonna get through this. Yes. All of my residents, and I tell them that every time I see them. I promise you we will get through it, but what's the matter of getting through it is how we get through it.
There you go. Well, blessings on the rest of your day.
You as well, sir.
Bye for now.